This episode is the best thing you can do for yourself today. If you listen to only this 15-minute conversation, I guarantee you're going to leave feeling more confident, more happy. This woman is going to cheer you up and fuel you with self-help and motivation and all of the exercises and gratitude and reassurance that you need to succeed because she is just amazing. Now, my guest today, Musonda Veronica, has been named Person of the Year by Insider 2026. That in itself is absolutely stunning. She's going to teach you that your path doesn't have to make sense. And she emphasized the fact that courage always beats readiness and that you already have the value to save the world. You just don't know it yet. I'm so excited so you can get to meet this woman. Let's just go ahead with the intro.
Hey, it's Sonia, and welcome to the SMARTA Podcast.
Today's guest is someone who brings clarity, courage, and truth to one of the most expensive challenges organizations face today: digital transformation. Musonda Veronica is a transformation strategist, an award-winning keynote speaker, and the founder of MVM Consulting, a firm built with a bold mission to level the playing field between clients and system integrators so companies stop losing millions to preventable project failures. Now, Musonda has over a decade of hands-on Microsoft D365 implementation experience, and she has lived transformation from both sides of the table as the consultant delivering the change and as the client accountable for making it work. She's worked with 4 different Microsoft partners, managed high-stakes projects as an end user, and witnessed the entire spectrum of outcomes from transformations that delivered 200% ROI to ones that ended careers. Her approach is refreshingly human and deeply strategic. Instead of treating transformation as a technical exercise, she focuses on mindset, collaboration, and relationship intelligence, helping organizations become the kind of clients that implementation partners want to work with, and guiding teams to avoid the hidden pitfalls that sabotage projects long before they go live. Musonda is Prince 2 and Agile certified, an award-winning speaker known for turning complex technology topics into clear and actionable insights. Through her workshops, keynotes, and consulting, she helps leaders build transformations that don't just deliver softwares, but deliver outcomes. Here she is. Musonda Veronica, welcome to the SMARTA Podcast.
Hello. Thank you, Sonia, for having me. Excited to be here.
I cannot wait to begin, Musonda, because I got introduced to you from Brad Burton, which was last week's guest. So we're following up with you, which is fantastic. I just want to start off with your TEDx talk that was published this September. And you say this, that you don't need to be Gen Z. It's more about the mindset that we need to choose. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
So I am a lover of Gen Z, as you would have heard in my podcast. I've always wished that I
High
was
five.
Gen.
Me too. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm a millennial. Fine. But the thing that I admire about Gen Z, and which is the thing that I always had, and that's why I've admired Gen Z and how you are coming up, is that you have a mindset that challenges things that we've accepted as the norm, things that we've always considered as sort of, this is how it's always done. Our parents did it this way. We just run with it, right? Yeah. Society has said this is how it should go. We accept it. But you guys, Gen Z, you're saying no, you challenge things. And that's how I used to be as a child, growing up, even like up to university age, I challenged everything that I came across. But at that time, because I was the only one challenging it or one of the very few people doing it, I was seen as problematic. So you guys have an opportunity to challenge things, and that mindset, I think, as much as there is a lot of talk about Gen Z this and Gen Z are lazy, entitled, I think we can learn a lot from Gen Z and adopt that mindset of challenging what we consider normal, challenging the barriers that we've accepted, the limitations that we accept as reality, and say, actually, is this a real barrier, or is this something that I've just put in front of me, or society has told me is a barrier for me and I can actually cross over it?
Mm-hmm. To quote, you refuse to accept the limitations that don't define you, that don't define us,
Absolutely not.
I can absolutely agree. Okay, I want to take you here now. So spanning off the conversation in regards to everything that we're going to talk about, what would you say, Musonda, are the top 3 key takeaways the person listening right now won't want to miss?
Okay. So the number 1 is that your path doesn't have to make sense right now. Your path, your career path doesn't have to make sense right now. When I first started out in my career, I went to university. I didn't want to go, but I went because I didn't know what else to do. And no one around me was supportive enough to say, right, what other options do you want to explore? Everyone was sort of just, you need to go. You're a good student. You've got the grades, go to university. So I went and studied law, hated every minute of it. If I could go back, that's one piece of my life that I would never do again. Did I learn a lot from university? Of course I did, but it wasn't the right place for me because I didn't want to be there, and I was doing a subject that I absolutely should never have done in the first place. I saw it through because we don't quit, but that's one thing. Life doesn't have to make sense right now. Your career path might not make sense just right now, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It will eventually. That's one. The second part will be that courage always beats readiness.
I love that.
Courage always beats readiness. And the reason for that is most people wait until they feel completely ready to take a step to something, or completely ready before they take up an opportunity. And by that time, that opportunity has missed them.
Yeah.
Or someone else has said yes to that opportunity and take it and run with it. So courage always beats you getting ready. I always say, get ready, or say yes, and then get ready.
Yeah.
The reason that you say yes and then get ready is once you've said yes, you're not committing to anything, whatever that opportunity is. You could say yes to it. You can change your mind later on if you need to, but say yes and use that excitement and fear to harness some preparation, to prepare yourself, use that excitement to fuel your preparation. So you say yes and then you prepare, so courage is just saying yes, deciding that, you know what, even though I don't feel ready right now, I'm going to step into this opportunity. That's the second one. The third thing is you already have the value that you can serve the world with. We just don't know it yet.
Wow.
Most of the time, especially with young people, and even older people, to be fair, because I coach a lot of people who are transitioning careers or starting afresh in a new career. They always think, well, I've never done this before. I'm completely new at this. How, I don't know what I bring to the table.
Yeah.
Every single one of us has some value that you can offer to any situation, whether it's a new role, a new opportunity, a new career. It could just be, Sonia, that you being a younger person than me has a fresh mindset. You've watched TikTok that I haven't, and you've picked something. And not to generalize, that you're saying TikTok the whole day, because I'd be doing that. But, you might have experienced something within your age group and with your friends that I wouldn't be aware of, and you might suggest it to me. That's bringing value. You might be quicker on the internet than I am because you've grown up on the internet. That's value. So it's finding the things that you already do well and thinking, how can I use this thing that I have to get into a new career, to get into a new opportunity, whatever that would look like.
Absolutely.
So
I
those are
love those three.
Yeah. So the path may change. That's okay. Say yes before you're ready. And, you have value already, and you just need to believe that.
And I mean, you have to provide value before you ask for someone else's. And
Absolutely.
it's fantastic that, you talk to me about the power of yes, because one of your 4 keynote topics is the say yes strategy. Can I ask you, what's a moment when, you encountered in your career that saying yes before you were ready completely changed your life?
How much time do we have?
Oh, gosh, we really have to.
So I'm a believer, I'm not just saying these things to say them. I have pretty much lived my entire life on the basis of it. So I have said yes to opportunity when I wasn't ready. So there's 2 key defining moments, probably 3. I will share one. So the first defining moment in my career was straight out of university, and I was driven, ambitious, stuck. I want to do this. But everyone around me is like, well, you're a graduate, you've got to start from the bottom and work your way up. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I just want to make money. And so I used to sit in my job after work, just look out the window and dream about moving away. I wanted to move abroad and work in London. I lived in Nottingham, and I was like, moving to London seemed like such a big step for a newly graduate. And I started applying for all jobs. I would apply for 6-figure jobs. Any job that was paying 6-figure, I would apply for it. Mind you, I'm 21, just about to be 22. No work experience whatsoever outside, the odd jobs that you do when you're at university. And I was just applying for all the 6-figure jobs. In hindsight, now I know, obviously, those jobs would have been well up, my experience level, but I still applied. And through that application, I got a call from a recruiter about an opportunity, but I did not realize that opportunity was based in Indonesia. So the recruiter said, are you aware you've applied for a job in Southeast Asia? I was like, of course. Quickly looking up online, where Southeast Asia is, what countries constitute Southeast Asia. I had no idea. But
Wow.
they put me through for an interview, and I had an interview with this organization, and they loved the fact that I went for it, even though I didn't have experience, because they wanted people who were driven and ambitious and ready to work, and
Yeah.
they just loved me in the interview, and they offered me the job. And 2 weeks later, I was relocating to Indonesia to start my job. But that opportunity, that saying yes in that moment, has allowed me to say yes several times over, because I've done it before and it worked out. So it's allowed me to just keep doing it, knowing that I am capable and I managed, track record is I'm still here, I survived. So so that's one of the key ones. I do have other moments, but that was critical for me because that was a defining moment of saying yes to opportunity before I was ready.
Mm-hmm. And I think, you can relate to this as a podcast host. You can relate to this when you're in school, taking over like bigger things than you think you're capable of always is so rewarding, because you will surprise and shock yourself to how many things you are in fact capable of. And I want to know more about how you can actually turn fear into self-experience and have an action plan that, you can use instead of looking at obstacles as a barrier.
So when we talk about fear is such a big thing. It encompasses a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things. And what I find that people don't do is name the fear. You've got to
Name
name
it.
the fear. What are you scared of? Are you afraid
Yeah.
because the job means I'm moving away from my family? Or are you
Mm-hmm.
afraid because I'm starting afresh in a new industry? I'm afraid because I don't have any experience. So you've got to name the fear, because when you just leave fear as, oh, I'm scared,
Yeah.
I'm afraid of doing
Mm-hmm.
this. What does that entail? It's
Mm-hmm.
too big a thing. You need to name it, because once you name the fear, you can identify the gap that bridges that fear back, that brings it in. So, for example, I'm afraid, I'm scared because I don't have enough experience. Okay, so what can I do now to bridge that gap between me having no experience and me going for this job, or me
Mm-hmm.
applying for this
Mm-hmm.
opportunity? Can I do some freelance work for free work? Can I learn something practical online, self-study, so that I can bridge that gap in knowledge? So once you identify what the fear is, you
Mm-hmm.
can then bridge the gap.
Yeah.
Only when you bridge the gap can you create a plan. What are the small steps I can take to get this gap smaller?
Yeah.
But as long as you don't know what the fear is, you're just afraid. So it's naming that fear, identifying what is it that is scaring me about this opportunity. Once you've identified what that is, then you can say, right, now I know that it's the moving away from family, for example. I can start looking into, is there anyone I know who in my network, family, friends, my mom's friends who lives in the area that I can connect with, and then it feels less scary because at least I know someone in the area. But you've got to identify, what is this thing that I'm scared of? What is this fear? What's fueling it? Only when you identify the fear does it lose influence. What you name cannot shame you. So what you name cannot shame you is what I like to believe. So identify the fear, bridge the gap, and then you have a plan.
Hold on. So you said what you name can't shame you. I think that's
What
so
you name can't
interesting.
shame you.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, because a lot of times you've got like conflicting advice telling you to suppress your feelings or to let them out, because then it's complete polar opposites. But
Yeah.
you do something completely different here, and you actually say, because everyone has a fear, whether they acknowledge it there or it's unconscious, whether it's work related or personal life related. Just naming your fear, I think, is so, exactly like you say, pivotal in actually starting to understand it and break it down. Well, I want to ask you now, because you grew up in Zambia, then you moved to the UK, you were raised by a single mother. Can I ask you, what was networking like? And how do you actually shape better communications and benefit and use it to your advantage?
Okay, good question. So when I first moved to the UK, I moved to Cornwall,
Mm-hmm.
Camborne, a small town called Camborne in Cornwall.
Yeah.
Tiny, tiny town, and there were there was only two black people in my school, me and my sister. My sister was the other black kid in our school, and
Wow.
I remember thinking, "Oh God, I've got to start afresh." I left a group of good friends that I was familiar with,
Yeah.
my family, my extended family. So it
Mm-hmm.
it felt very alien, but I met a friend called Nina Harvey. I'm still good friends with her now,
Yeah.
and Nina was the exact opposite of me. But what connected us was, she used to spend, when I say Nina was opposite of me, she used to spend her weekends at the graveyard hanging out. I spent my weekends at church. We had absolutely nothing in common. However, the thing that connected us is that we both ended up in a geography class with a bunch of boys and then just me and her. And what I realized is we found a common ground. So then with networking, you've got to find a common ground. For us, it's the fact that we shared a geography class. We didn't have any other classes together, but that was a chance for me to connect with Nina. So finding a common ground helps you build relationships, because it was via Nina's friendship that she introduced me to the other people that were in the girls that I ended up becoming friends with in the school. So it's finding common ground. Who do I have common grounds with? But also nowadays we think of networking as you've got to be out there, putting yourself out there, speaking to this person, speaking to that person. Sometimes it's just being present online. You guys do it well, Gen Z. You're very present on social media, but also you're almost present, but not quite. You're like there, but you're not engaging with other people. You're engaging with your friends on Snapchat, but you're not engaging with the other people. Say on LinkedIn, for example, if you know someone who's doing something that you want to do and in a career that you want to go, someone wants to be a program manager, wants to be a project manager. Hey, Musonda, I want, commenting, send me a message. Hey, Musonda, I want to be a project manager. What do I need to do? I get messages like that all the time. And you know what? I take such an interest with people who make the effort to do that, because I know that they're willing and they're putting themselves out there. I'll put in 10, 15-minute call with them, give them some tips on careers, and that's sufficient. Sometimes people might not respond. So what? Let them move on, go to someone else.
Yeah.
So it's connect, someone posts something that you resonate with, comment back and say, I connect with that. That makes sense. This is my experience as a newly left college or newly graduated student. I think this makes a lot of sense. What would you, and then ask them a question. They love that. LinkedIn is full of egos. People love to feel like their content is useful. So they'll love that. And then some of them might respond, some of them might not, but the impressions, people will see you. Other people might see you asking questions. They might connect with you. If you attend an event, someone speaks, reach out to them afterwards. Hey, I really enjoyed your session today. This is a value that I got. Or put up a LinkedIn post and say, attended this session. This is the value that I got from it. They'll see that, and then other people will see it as well. So sometimes we think networking is about going to events and standing in the corner, hoping someone's going to speak to you. But it's about just using what we already have, our resources, i.e. your phone in your hand, and using it to connect with who you can connect with. So for me, it started with making a friend who then introduced me to other friends. It might not look like that for you. It might look like commenting on a LinkedIn post of someone who then invites you or connects you to someone else. Or me connecting with Brad, who connects with you, who then connects us together. That is how you network.
Exactly. That's such a powerful example. And I think it's like you boil it down to something so simple that everyone can do and understand, whether it's your work colleague or whether I'm in, school and I sit next to a potential friend that can introduce me to the next, podcast host, because actually networking is no longer just the intimidating flying around of cards and exchanging, information.
Yeah, but I was also remembering that the other person, there's a human on the other side, so you're speaking to another person. It's not, it
Regardless
doesn't
of the position.
your title. Yeah, exactly. Their position. It doesn't matter. They're just a human. You can connect with people on so many different things, even the ones that look nothing like you or have no similarities in personality. But you can find common ground with pretty much anyone if you try and just make the effort. And also be curious about people. That's one thing that I always tell my mentees. Always be curious about other people. Ask them questions, because there's nothing that people love more than talking about themselves. So the minute you start allowing them to talk about themselves, they walk away thinking, oh, she's really lovely. Actually, you've not really done anything but taken an interest in them, but you're also learning. That's your moment to learn. And they'll remember you the next time. Oh, there's that young girl who asked me the right questions. There was that young guy that asked me the right questions. And then they could, recommend you and put you in rooms that you wouldn't actually be in if you didn't speak to people and interact.
Mm-hmm. You've talked to me earlier about applying to this job without experience, which I appreciate highly, as especially someone that reaches out coldly to everyone, like recklessly almost. Can I ask you now about what transferable skills can we use when we don't have that experience, and how can we put them forward in a way that, sets us out from the crowd?
So as I mentioned earlier, you'll be actually surprised how many people do not recognize that soft skills are skills that work in corporate spaces and other career paths that are not, things like communications, teamwork. So when I started out in tech, I didn't have any technology experience. However, I did a law degree and I had some sales experience. I had people management experience. So I was able to position myself based on the soft skills and other technical skills, technical as in, less coding and all of that stuff, but more how to plan things, how to schedule things, how to engage, how to run meetings. I already had those skills, so I was able to present those back to the organizations that I interviewed for the job for, even though I didn't have the experience. So let's say you're straight out of college, straight out of school, and you're coming into a work environment. Use your school projects to highlight teamwork. Use a school project to highlight you planned and coordinated and you led a few, and no one would appreciate more than saying I had a team of other 18-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and I was the team lead. They were like, right, if you can lead them, then you should be really good in work. For example, if you do sports, you can talk about discipline. I've developed my discipline because I did this sport and I did it every day for this long. Leadership. I led the team. I was the captain of the team, or I was part of this team that won this award. So it's just talking about the resilience. We lost this many times, but I still committed to the team. That's something to highlight. I know it seems small and silly. However, it shows that you're resilient and you're someone who sticks to something once you start. Family responsibility. This is, again, something that people don't think about. I was supporting my younger sisters, with their homework, or, I supported. I know it seems very simple, but these are things when you don't have any sort of experience that you can tap into, that you can highlight as skills. I remember when I first started, applying for jobs, I used to put babysitting on there, as a experience, because I used to babysit when I was 13 and I would babysit like a family friend's kid. I put it on there because that's the only experience I had. But if I know what I know now, I would have put it in as this shows that I'm responsible and I've been in a situation when I'm starting at a certain time and finishing at a certain time. So I know how to be within an environment, a work environment within predefined times. But also part-time jobs that you do, whether you're working in McDonald's, you're working in any environment, you're working with people, you're dealing with people on a daily basis. Those soft skills, customer service, engaging, reporting into a manager, those need to be highlighted. People think that I need to have all these skills that are just related to the job, but the soft skills actually are so much better, and the skills that we acquire from everyday life are quite useful. Communication, I run my group, my school group's communication or the social media channel. That's communication. I planned the social media content. That's planning. That's what project managers do. We plan, so if you've been doing that, you already know, I planned content for a month and I'll get it approved. And so those are skills. You're getting approval from people. You're seeking guidance. So that's all skills that you can highlight. So any activities, any skills used, use it as evidence to have impact on your CV, even as you build it up.
Mm-hmm. Something very effective that I found while doing this and taking on multiple projects is just starting a brand new page and writing down everything that I did, all of the accomplishments, because it's very easy to forget and it's very easy to get lost in the track of you. I heard this quote once and I think is perfectly matches this, is that your ordinary is someone else's extraordinary. And I just sat to let that sink in, because I think, especially when I found writing down all the accomplishments like on quarterly basis on a paper, it made me realize that I'm actually ahead of a lot of people, even though I'm, racing for more and more. But because you touched upon tech and because of this, like keeping accomplishments, I think confidence plays a big side and part in it as well. What would you say are the practical steps that we need to take on to build confidence and credibility in the tech world?
Yeah, so there is a lot of free courses that you can do. So I specialize in Microsoft systems. So I use Microsoft Learn. Microsoft Learn has a lot of basic courses that you can do tomorrow. You can go and learn how to build platforms, websites, applications, and they're all free. So it's free to access. It's called microsoftlearn.com, and you can go on there, learn how to build Microsoft products for free. And then, when you're applying for jobs, you can say, hey, I've already done this course, actually, or I'm self-studying and I've already done this course. Is that going to make you a Microsoft consultant in 2 weeks? Definitely not. However, it's going to be a foundation and it shows that you're keen and eager to learn. There's a lot of other courses on Google as well, which they do, like Google courses, AI courses, business apps as well. So Udemy has courses as well that are free and cheap. Read.com I used to use when I started out in project management to do some basic courses just to get the foundation. So they would do different courses in technology as well. That just gives you the basics, how projects work, how things are built, how technology is delivered. That just gives you the foundation. So then you can start thinking of, based on what I've learned here, oh, actually, back to the skills. I do have this skill, but you can't know what the skills are until you've started to sort of get your fit involved in it a little bit, and you start to pick up like, okay, I do actually have a skill that I can transfer here. So so try and take up the courses, learn the language, with the basic courses, you learn the language when they're talking about, so when they're in the interview, people we've been in technology a long time, we become a little bit, what's the word? We're almost on autopilot and we use terminology that may confuse you in an interview, for example. So if you know the terminology, if people are talking about processes and workflows and requirements and this, you already know what it is because you've read about it. So you're building your practical experience so that you're not confused, when people are speaking to you. You build your practical experience. Also build something small, like I said, on Microsoft Learn, you can build an application. Gen Z are brilliant with technology. Just go on, do some training, build an application and say, listen, I built this application. It's not brilliant, but it's something. It shows keenness. It shows that you're curious. It shows eagerness to get in the industry as well. And you talked about confidence. And one of the things I always say is confidence comes from familiarity. When you feel familiar with something, it's easier to be confident. Confidence is taken away when you're scared, when you don't know it's the unknown is what lacks the confidence. But when you feel familiar, when you walk into your home, you don't walk in sheepishly because his home is familiar. But when you walk into other rooms where you might not know the place, it might be a little bit uneasy, unsure. But when you walk into familiar places, it's easier to be confident because familiarity encourages confidence.
Mm-hmm. I'm really interested because something I haven't talked to you yet that I'm very interested, that I'd like to present to you, a little post that I saw the other day that I think I can use perfectly here, is that there's 8 million current podcasts out there, but only 7% of that 8 million figure are business podcasts hosted by women.
Wow.
And you talk a lot about this on your website, that when you entered the leadership business, you didn't really found a role model that looked like you. And I wanted to ask you here, for all of the Gen Z growing up now that are seeing a lot of these strengths, a lot of their differences as weaknesses, how can they start seeing them as strengths?
Good question. And I'm shocked by that 7%, by the way. Maybe
I
there's a
completely
way to do a podcast. Geez, that is shocking. Differences are strengths. So I think what we need to understand about differences is that they're not a disadvantage. I talk about differences, although I've got a keynote that's called Different by Design. And it's a talk that encourages people to embrace their differences, but also for other people to see our differences. Because the minute back to what I said, you name something, what you don't name, you don't acknowledge. You cannot acknowledge something that you haven't named. So the difference is understanding that my difference does not mean that a disadvantage or that I'm on the back foot. It just means that I have insights that you might not have, they might not have, and other people might not have. I'll have a perspective that no one else will have because I'm different. So when you're in the room and everyone else is thinking the same and you bring fresh perspective, you bring fresh ideas. A room that is everyone thinks the same, everyone comes from the same background, does not innovate because there is no room for fresh idea, fresh perspectives. So your lived experience as a person who's completely different from other people, or not completely different, but you know what I mean? Like a person who's different gives you almost an advantage because it's a competitive age, because you're always going to have fresh perspective. So you ask yourself, what is it about me that others would overlook? What challenges have shaped my resilience? What is my difference? How has me being different shaped my resilience? What perspective do I bring to the table? Because if everyone's sat at the table and everyone has brought I don't know, mac and cheese, and that's what we're having, that's going to be a very boring meal. So what perspective do I bring? What does my difference allow me? What value does my difference bring to the table? And what confidence does that give me, actually? And because when we talk about difference, it could be you're different because you've got a special gift, or you're different because you've come from somewhere else. What value does that give you? For me, for example, I'm from Zambia. I partly raised here, partly raised in Zambia, and I was going about being from Zambia, and people were like, "Why?" Because if you understand that I'm from Zambia, you understand that I'll have different way of thinking, and there's different things that I talk about that other people from here would not understand, and that's my opportunity to teach and share a different perspective. So the difference should not be seen as a weakness or disadvantage. It should be seen as an opportunity to bring fresh perspective.
Mm-hmm. I want to stick to leadership for a second here, because Andrew Bryant has this terminology and analogy of self-leadership, that actually, in order to lead others, you have to lead yourself first. And I love that idea. So I wanted to ask you, what does early leadership look like for a teenager from your point of view?
Yeah, I think how leadership was a few years ago was very much of the boss tells you do this, do that, and it's changed a lot. Leadership now is more collaborative. It's people sort of working with teams and getting input, allowing other people to lead. They'll lead different. So, for example, when I manage my teams, I let them lead a certain work stream, and we call it a certain area. So understanding how well you collaborate. That is leadership, because it's being able to collaborate. But also, you could be someone who is, I have a friend, she's always the one who, since we were younger, who coordinates holidays. She always coordinates a group chat. She brings everyone together. Naturally, she's just always done that very easily. It's recognizing that is leadership in itself. Being able to coordinate people and plan birthdays and whatever, that is leadership. But also taking responsibility for something that someone tells you. If someone could tell you a private thing that you don't share with other people, confidentiality is one thing that you need as a leader. So when you're managing a lot of people in work, for example, they will be confiding in you with different things. So the ability to be able to take something that someone tells you, not it impact how you engage with them. Yeah. It doesn't change how you behave towards them. It doesn't change your opinion towards them, because, in a leadership position, you can't change your opinions just because someone has confided something. So that's also building early leadership skills. So leadership is not just about, I have authority and it's the skills that I'm referring to, those human skills that have been so forgotten by the people that have been in leadership a long time, because they've just become almost like programmed to behave a certain way. Building those skills, those human-like skills that allow you to support and coach, helping someone understand something that you learned. That is leadership. So leadership is a behavior long before it becomes a job or a role that you step into. It's building those behaviors that bring calm when others are stressed. Are you the friend that people call when they're stressed out? That is a leadership quality in itself. So as long as we don't look at leadership as you work your way up and now you've got a job title that makes you a leader, it's about behaviors building certain behaviors that allow you to step into that leadership role with ease. Because all the things that I've said are things that you have to do as a leader. Support, keep everyone calm when there's stress, keep secrets, we're part therapists sometimes. Without judgment. So that's what I would say.
That's so well said. It's very well said, because leadership is not non-linear. You can wake up one day and you have to fire 30 people on your team. What do you do? I mean, it's not constant, and you have to challenge and handle obstacles and problems very well, and have to find solutions very quickly, and be adaptable and be agile. And I think you emphasizing soft skills earlier before was also so important, especially now as AI is coming ever more prominent in our workflows and in our daily lives, because AI will take over all the repetitive tasks, and humans will become ever so important in communicating. So in terms of young people now, to narrow back down to my age, in terms of finding mentors or building supportive circles, what would you say when you think no one will say yes?
Mm-hmm. So I think that when people think of mentorship, they think of this mythical senior person sitting at the top somewhere that you're going to go and you're going to learn, someone like a Jedi of some sort. But I I started, my first mentor was my friend. My friend was in a career that I aspired to be. She was a business analyst, which is in the tech space in Microsoft D365 space, which is a space I'm in. And I asked her, what did you do to become what you are? She wrote down, she said, based on your personality, I think you'd be a good project manager. And she wrote down the courses I needed to do to become a project manager. And that's the path that I took. I studied, I went and studied, I was asking for advice. I asked her what my transferable skills could I use based on my previous experience. This was my friend, my peer. I'm still friends with her to this day, but she wasn't someone who was in 20, 30 steps ahead of me. She was literally one of my friends. It's just because I took an interest and asked her, what do I need to do? So sometimes it's just asking the right questions to the people that are already in your life. You might not have people that are able to mentor you, but it's also as joining communities. There's so many communities that you can join and commenting on those communities. So for example, if you're on my LinkedIn page, and I've had this several times where people's on my LinkedIn and they'll message me or comment on something, and I know, oh, this girl is always commenting, or this young guy is always, this person's always commenting on my page. And then if they message me and say, hey, Musonda, I'm trying to get into project management. Can I have 10 minutes of your time? 9 times out of 10, unless my plate is completely stacked that I have no room, I will meet with them. And the reason for that is because they've asked, and like I said before, you will ask. Some people will say no. Some people will say yes. The ones who say no, let them. You don't want them to mentor you anyway. And sometimes they don't mean it in a bad way. They might just not be free. And that happens sometimes, but that's okay. But the ones that you do reach, if you reach out to 5 people, one person says yes, that's the one person that you need. How I got Brad as my mentor, for example, Brad is my speaker mentor. I was speaking at an event and Brad was speaking after me. And I saw a video. I'd never seen him speak before, but I saw a video on YouTube of him speaking. And I rang my sister, I said, I'm not going to this speaking event. I said, the guy who's speaking after me, he's so good. And my sister's like, don't be silly. That, you speak better than him. She was lying to me just to give me confidence. I went to the event, and as I walked in, Brad was walking in. I said, I know you. You're doing the talk after me. He says, oh, are you? Am I? And we introduced each other. And we were talking for such a long time. He was giving me free tips, just free advice, and make sure you do this. Maybe have you tried this as a speaker? And then by the time I left, he was my mentor. I didn't ask him, but it just happened. And sometimes it's just, I was having a conversation with him. Through the conversations, we connected. So sometimes you don't go looking for the mentors. They'll just find you based on interaction, but you have to engage. You have to engage one way or another. Your mentors are not going to find you, and just say, hey, I want to mentor you. You have to engage. If I didn't show up for that event because I was scared because that Brad was going to, make me look like an amateur, or if I didn't speak to him and introduce myself to him, I wouldn't have had him as my mentor. I spoke to him knowing that this is someone that I'm trying to learn from, and he was receptive enough, and whatever, almost 9 months later, here we are. So it's engaging even with the people that scare you, even the ones you think they might not respond. As I said again, so what if they don't? Message them, they might respond. If they don't, someone else will respond. Just put yourself out there, but also look at the people in your circle. Someone might be doing something that you want to do, and they might give you advice. That is also mentorship in itself.
I think that truly sets us out perfectly. And I want to use this opportunity now to move you into the SMARTA Podcast traditions. Okay. What do you say? Okay, we've got 4 questions. So the first one is the question where I ask my last guest leave one for the next one. And so the question left over for you is, since you teach people to build confidence through competence mapping, how can a person create a simple competence map to track growth and recognize their strengths?
Did Brad leave that?
No.
Wow. Okay, good. Okay, I was going to say, set me up. But good question. I like that. Okay, so competence map. Competence map. So I'll say 3 simple steps that I would use. So what can I do now? What can I do right now? What skills do I currently have? Communication, organizing, analyzing, creating. So you highlight what are the things that you already are able to do. Yeah. And then you find, where have I used these things? So you highlight the places school project, volunteering, sports, other home responsibility, church, part-time job, whatever, right? Where have I used this? How can this help me grow? So then what how can I grow this to the next level? What can I take from these things that I already have to take it to the next level? Is there a course I can do? How can I practice? How can I find mentorship? What challenges can I do to help me build on this? And you just review that on a consistent basis. So for example, the first month might be, do you know what? I'm really good at social media management. And then you decide, okay, where have I done it before for my own personal social media? Okay, great. What can I do? I need to do a course, social media management course online. Do it. And then that you do it. And then the next time it might be, what else can I build my competence in? What other areas do I think I can develop my competencies? And then you might find, being a planning, for example, how can I improve my planning skills? Do you know what, Mum? Let me plan this family holiday.
Yeah.
They might let you, depending on your reputation at home. I don't know. But, so then that's the thing. So you find, what is it I can do? Where have I done it before? If I haven't done it before, how can I grow it to get it to the next level? That's how I would map it out.
And that's a great example, because actually this summer was the first holiday trip I've planned entirely on my own. And I've never, like I'm telling you, Musonda, I've never realized how much stress actually goes in all of it. Like, it is insanely crazy and chaotic at the start, handling all of the flights, all of the booking reservations, the restaurants, knowing your way around the city, especially if your phone dies. It's exciting and it's nerve-wracking at the same time.
Yeah. I love planning a holiday. I'm usually the planner. I've got one, apart from when I'm going with my friend Andela. She's the one I mentioned before. She's brilliant. She'll plan everything, what restaurants you're eating at and all of that. But normally I'm the planner, and I love planning a holiday. I love finding good deals, and but then it's also my job. So I guess planning is on my job, keeping the competence map up. Yeah.
Yeah. The second question, it takes you back in time to when you were my age. So, Musana, if you can talk to your 17-year-old self, what's one piece of advice you would tell yourself?
Don't go to university, be firm with Mum. No, I think that I would say stop waiting till you feel ready. So when I was 17 and I was about to go to university, I wanted to run my own business, and I didn't have a plan for it. And like I said, I didn't have the support that I needed, and I wish I'd had the support.
Yeah.
However, things have worked out. I always believe things work out how they should, and they worked out how they should have. But every breakthrough in my life started with a decision that scared me. So do not wait until you feel ready, is the advice I'd give myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, the third question takes you into the world of books. So, what would you say, Musana, are your top 2 books that completely changed the perspective through which you view life with?
2 books. Wow. Okay. Number 1 is a book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short book. It's not very long, but I read that book at a time when I needed a mindset shift. I'd left a job and I was out of work for a very long time, and I was very stressed. I was in such a negative funk that I was almost like, I just couldn't get out of it. And I read that book, and it basically talks about what your mind conceives, what your mind thinks, it achieves. Whatever it believes is what you achieve. And so when I read that book, I found a job within like 2 weeks after that. I actually pretty much finished reading the book, and I wrote myself an email that said, congratulations, you got a job. And I got an offer letter within that week. And the offer letter was typed up on the day that I wrote that email to myself. So that was the book that changed my mindset. No lie, no exaggeration. So it was the 4th of June. I finished reading the book, and I was laying on my bed thinking, right, I need to change my mindset and stop focusing on the fact that I haven't got a job, and emailed myself an email. It simply said, congratulations, you got the job. By this point, I'd interviewed for several jobs. Okay. So I didn't have any, I wasn't waiting for any job. I'd interviewed for several jobs, and none of them were coming back to me. And on the 8th of June, I got an email saying, this is your job offer. And when I opened the letter, it was typed up on the 4th of June. So the day that I was writing up, I don't know, coincidence, maybe manifestation, I don't know, call it what you will. But it's the book that changed my mindset. And since then, I'm very careful about what I'm thinking of, because the amount of things, if you can manifest positively, you can manifest negatively too. And I think people forget that, what you perceive, you achieve. That's the first book. The second book is one that I read very recently, and it's The Let Them Theory, Mel Robbins. Have you got it?
Someone else started reading it.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
Honestly, that book, I literally recommend it to every single person in my life. Me and my sister read it together, and then we recommended it to our other two sisters. They haven't quite read it yet, so yeah, they're still pending. But everyone else I speak to, I'm telling them to read this book. And the reason for it is I grew up in a time when, even though I said yes to opportunities and I challenged myself, I also cared a little bit too much what other people thought
Mm,
about what I was doing, and
yeah.
that would sometimes impact me going for things and
Mhm.
me putting myself forward to certain things. So I was putting myself forward, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I could have done more if
Yeah.
I'd read that book a lot sooner. So the book basically tells you just to let people be. You
Yeah.
can't control what you can control, and what you can't control, you leave it to them. And honestly, it has helped me not just in work, in my personal life, where I'm just not stressing about people's actions. The things that would normally worry me or bother me about other
Yeah.
people, I'm just sort of saying, well, I can't control that, so let them, and yeah, it's been a life-changing book for me. So those are the two books. James Allen's my number one, and then James Allen, As a Man Thinketh, is my number one, and then Let Them, Mel Robbins.
And I was just about to say about, your first book choice. I just noticed you as soon as I discovered who you were, and Brad showed me the beautiful, path that you've taken on, that you manifested your dream job in under 24
Yes.
hours. That was the first YouTube video that was, I think, is quite recent, under 2 weeks now, that I saw. And then the same video popped up on Instagram, and I was absolutely, just nodding my way through watching that video, so excited to meet you today. And I think it goes without saying, like what channel your frequency
Mm.
as is on. And I'm a firm believer on vision boards, and
Same.
not just the pictures lined up in collages, but manifesting with the words, and not in the past tense or in the future tense, but in the present tense, is magical. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I have stories about manifestation, stories galore, since then, and how much stuff I've ended up manifesting. My entire life is a manifestation of my self-belief and the things that I wrote down. My vision boards, for example, the house I put down on the vision board, the car that I drive was my vision board in 2018. And, I didn't get them until 2022, but I did get them eventually. And it's crazy. I talk about it, and it scares me a little bit in a way too, because like I
Yeah.
said, just the same way we manifest positively, we manifest negatively too. So people need to just be careful what they put out there. So you watch what you put out, because whatever you put out comes back to you. And I'm just very intentional about the things I put out, because I like nice things and good vibes only. So Sonia, so yeah.
And Musana, as my last question to you, I want to end this episode by you talking directly with the person listening. And
Okay.
if you could talk directly with them, what would you say as an end message?
I believe that your dreams do not need to make sense to anyone else. Your dreams do not need to make sense to anyone else. They just need movement from you. Whatever that looks like, just start when you're even when you're not ready. Just start. Whether it's 1 step today, 1% today, that adds up. It's 1%, 101% that make 100%. Just start. Your dreams do not need to make sense to anyone else, and give yourself permission to build a life that's bigger than anything that you've seen.
Wow.
Give yourself
Yeah,
permission to build a life that is bigger than anything that you've seen.
absolutely. I love that. That is amazing. Musonda Veronica, thank you so much for being on the SMARTA podcast. I am not kidding. This is my first episode of 2026. My second, actually, and I'm already in love with it. So thank you so much
Oh,
for
thank
sharing
you
all of
so
this
much.
wisdom.
It's really great to be here. Thank you for having me, Sonia. Honestly, it's been such a pleasure, and you're going places, you honestly. And I've got to say, and I don't know if anyone else has told you this, your voice sounds like Rihanna.
My voice sounds like Rihanna. Actually, no one
Totally.
has said that
No
before.
one said that. I've been
No.
sitting here thinking, this is like speaking to Rihanna. Like, it's similar, Let's see if anyone else picks it up.
Well, that's my favorite compliment so far. I'm not kidding. I'll get off this recording and I'll go straight to my mom and I'll tell her, do you know what?
I would put it and do a comparison. Honestly, I feel like it's quite similar. but yeah.
Thank you. And best of luck with everything you've got.
Thank you. And you too. I'll be watching your rest of the podcast. I've been listening. So yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, Sonia.
Now that Musonda's episode is done, carry her energy and her actions into 2026, because I guarantee you, you're going to be able to manifest exactly like she manifested her own job in under 24 hours, whatever is on your own vision board. Because by naming your fear, identifying your fear, what you name can't shame you, you're absolutely going to make it places. Your dreams are going to become accomplished. Just before we continue this video, why don't you double check that you're subscribed and rate this podcast 5 stars, because it's what keeps helping us bring amazing podcast guests on. With that being said, I'm Sonia Marta. You're watching the SMARTA Podcast, and I cannot wait to see you here next Monday, filled with even more excitement and energy and growth. And hear this, my next guest has been featured on the Humans of New York campaign. He's written a memoir book, and I can't wait for you to meet him. If nobody told you this today, I want to be the first to tell you that I believe in you and your ability to create the life of your dreams.